Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, shalom, ciao, bonjour, namaste, ciao.
Bienvenidos! My name is Chad Lee. This is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and the entire planet from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. You know, I firmly believe that every time parents and kids get together to read a book, something magical happens. And that's what Reading with Your Kids is all about, spreading the word, inspiring families to grow closer by reading. We love that you are with us today. We hope that you help us grow our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube, wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Michael J. Rosen is here to celebrate how to dive to the deepest place on Earth. He is co-author of this book with Dr. Kathy Sullivan. You heard Dr. Kathy earlier this month. This is just a really fantastic book, and it's a fantastic interview. You're going to love it. And later in the show, April Crystal Holmes is here to celebrate her middle grade novel, Invisible String, The Eris Journey, Book 2. Hey, want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, Redeeming Rhubarb by Bob Richley. This is much more than an animal adventure. It's a beautifully written story about prejudice, forgiveness, courage, and the possibility of redemption. The characters are wonderfully developed, especially Rhubarb, whose fears and biases make him a believable, if sometimes frustrating, character. His daughter Strawberry provides the perfect counterpoint as she learns to judge others by their actions instead of their appearance. Barnabas quickly becomes one of my favorite characters, a quiet example of kindness, humility, and grace. The adventure surrounding the Colorado floods keeps the story moving, while the deeper themes gives kids and parents plenty to discuss together after each chapter. One of the things that I really appreciated was that the author doesn't oversimplify difficult topics. Instead, he allows readers to experience growth alongside the characters, making the lessons feel earned rather than preached. If you're looking for a middle grade novel that combines excitement with meaningful life lessons, Redeeming Rhubarb is an excellent choice. Highly recommended. Congratulations to Bob Richley. Redeeming Rhubarb is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Joining us right now from the beautiful state of Ohio, our guest is here today to celebrate a picture book we celebrated a little while ago. It's How to Dive to the Deepest Place on Earth. Please welcome to the show, Michael J. Rosen. Michael, how are you?
I am well. I am honored to be here and ready to take the big plunge.
Happy to have you on. We were talking about this book with your co-author, Dr. Kathy Sullivan, the world's most vertical human being. And what an exciting tale, talking about her trip to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth. It's just mind-boggling that we are able to get down so low.
I met Kathy maybe 12 years ago, and she was a 3-ton shuttle astronaut. And she said, I need an author. I want to share some of my experiences. And you were recommended to me. I know you've done, 50, 70, 100 books, whatever the number is. And let's start meeting together. And we did. At that time, the idea of going to the bottom the Marianas Trench was not on the table. Mm-hmm. She was an oceanographer. That was her degree. That was her whole college experience. And in fact, she had arrived, maybe she shared this with you, at a moment where she was offered both a chance to discover part of the ocean floor off of the western shore of Canada, and because her brother said, you should apply to NASA because they're going to have women as potential candidates in their program. So she received both opportunities, and she explained to her parents, I have to tell you, I will either accept this job to go 200 miles above the surface of the Earth on a space shuttle, or I'm going to dive 5 miles below the surface, discovering some of the uncharted parts of the ocean. And her mother did that, had one of those little beats, and then said, Kathy, isn't there something on the surface that interests you? And I, of course, we all face challenges. We all face decisions. We all have crossroads and roads less traveled and so forth. But I love that Kathy was able to apply herself so liberally to say, it's not the medium. It's not water versus air. It's this quest to be curious, and a quest, I'm sure you heard her use these words, to have a plan, to observe, to record, and to bring that back, not just to the quote unquote surface, but back to the conversation about what does it mean to be a part of this planet that we know so little about.
That's one of the things that really kind of blows my mind. We know more about outer space than we do about our ocean.
Kathy's very clear about that. We know the moon. We've charted it. We've had satellites on it. We've managed to really describe the terrain in very particular terms. It's this, and then it turns to that, and now it's more this. Despite all of the travels that explorers have made on the waters of this globe, they've only cut very few swaths across this sphere. The vast, vast majority of it has never been seen. And, Kathy likes to say things like, when someone's, just to be funny, I had a great time. I went to, I was in St. Louis. Oh, did you meet my cousin Ted? Well, St. Louis has more than your cousin Ted. And when you think about Kathy's voyage in the submersible, which was a column, basically, here's the submersible. It is released into the water. It floats straight down. It spends 4 hours doing that. And then once on the bottom of the ocean, guided between 3, what they call landers, which are sonar and illuminated kind of posts that were dropped down. She has time traveling in the submersible among those in that designated area. And then after they jettison the ballast, after they let go of the extra weights, it's floating up for 4 hours. So that is all that was seen, just that column that was essentially the size, the circumference of the submersible. So the rest of the ocean around there, and we can't forget, it's pitch black.
Pitch black, yeah.
It's pitch black after the first 200 feet or so. It's getting darker and darker. And the fun thing about working with her was, here I am, even though I have a science background, I'm going to be illustrating this. And the art director says, oh, we want all of this wonderful, we want to show the voyage down and, like what they see at each level. And well, it's 7 miles down and the light gives out about 200 feet in. So we're not going to see a whole lot of anything. So, and I also, I mean, I'm naive enough. I'm not an oceanographer. I don't know how submersibles work. I guess I had some pictures of growing up in the 60s when you'd see in the back of comic books, hey, you can buy this inflatable submarine for your swimming pool. And, so I didn't know, was there a line? Was there going to be some kind of rope that was going to lower the submersible down and then pull them back up? I don't think that's an entirely stupid or naive idea.
No.
The answer was, no, we're going to let gravity and then we're going to let buoyancy take us one way and then back.
Wow. It's wild. When I was speaking with her about both the trip to the bottom of the Mariana Trench and also doing her spacewalk, I can't imagine being in a cylinder for 4 hours floating down, not knowing, is this ballast thing going to work and get me back to the top? Because I certainly am not going to be swimming up to the top of the ocean again.
No, you're not. You avoided that option. Pretty much, I forget what the world record for free diving is, but it's by no means anything close to even a quarter of a mile. It's in the book, but I can't say that number. The number one thing people ask when Kathy and I do a program, and I asked it as well, how are you not afraid? How do you muster this courage, you are going in an impossible vehicle, whether it's a space shuttle or a submersible, and your options for safety nets, I know you study them. I know there are contingencies, but how is it that you just don't get in okay, I'm going to go outside the space shuttle now, and I'll be back.
Yeah.
But she really convinces me that when your mindset is, I have practiced for 2 years, I have done simulations where literally we show up, let's say there are 4 of us, and they say, okay, number 1, today you're going to have a stomach cramp. And you're not going to feel right, and you're going to be slow. Or tomorrow, you're going to drop the wrench. You're just going to be clumsy for a moment, and you're going to drop the wrench. Or the hatch is going to stick, and you're going to need extra. So and they plan for every one of those things. So it's not as if they're like, oh, wait, what? Oh my shoot. Nobody said, no, somebody said every single thing. And I guess that your practice becomes a sense of real stamina and more than confidence. I think it's a sense that like if you're an opera singer or if you're a dancer, on the stage, and this is the moment when I'm going to hit that note, I'm going to make that leap. Sure, you can fall, you can crack, you can whatever, but you have worked your life to make this moment happen.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to the opera singer and the ballet dancer. I did educational magic shows for 35 years. But if I go out on stage and I tell a joke and it bombs, no big deal. I just go on to the next joke. But if you drop a wrench or if you forget to tether yourself the right way when you're in space, it's see ya. Even no matter how much practice, I'm with you. It seems, and I told her incredibly brave to be doing these type of things. But when I was speaking to her, she's like, oh, we practice and the submersible, it's we know that submersibles are safe unless it's poorly designed and you go into the Titanic. But otherwise, it's very safe.
She does have, it's kind of like the litmus test. Are you someone who likes that kind of adrenaline, that kind of planning and practice? Or are you someone who just looks at it and waves from the sidelines and says, I'd be delighted to know how it went. In our first book, how to spacewalk, the last page of the book, I drew a picture when Kathy, I went out to her airfield and she just had a small plane and she said, hey, why don't you come out? I'll take you on a little spin around the county. And, I'm not afraid of flying. I fly in planes. It's okay. Well, it's just me and Kathy in this little plane. And it's pretty loud. And I have on headphones. And I'm watching, the familiar landscape getting smaller and smaller. And then Kathy says, now, do you understand about G-force? And I say, well, yeah, like when she goes, here it is. And she just dives down. That's maybe one G-force. And I was okay. But, when I did this illustration at the back of the book, I showed Kathy, and the caption for Kathy says, the pilot who has 3,000 hours in the air. And then I point to me, with my hands over my face, Michael, the passenger, with 600,000 hours on the ground.
So what's the creative process? We talked to Lynn Oliver, who is sort of the co-author to The Star. She worked with Henry Winkler on his series. She worked with Goldie Hawn on her series. What's the creative process as you're collaborating with the world's most vertical human?
We first started with a whole variety of, do you want a biography? Do you want to be the expert on, my role was, who is your audience? Mm. My role is, I'm going to interpret for you. You did the observing, you did the exploring, you did the uncovering. Let me be the recoverer. Let me be the person who finds a way to expand and make consequential what it is that you have done and you have seen. So while Kathy is a very fine writer and has worked, as an author of books and of course papers, and when she was part of the government NOAA, she's not has no lack in how do I communicate, but how do we reach a 7-year-old, an 11-year-old? Well, that's been how I've spent my career over the last 40 years. And so we would meet and I would bring out a sort of outline from our previous conversation, like how to spacewalk. She would say, well, we trained, we were in a swimming pool, we did simulations, and I would try to do my research and sort of feed it back to her. And she would say, well, I see why the internet told you that, but it was my experience that we never did that. So this is what we did instead. So I was able in some ways to set up like someone in volleyball. I'll be the person who throws the ball in the air, and you be the person who spikes it over the net. So I tried to be a team player for her. I tried to let her land her best lines and then ultimately figure out, well, we only have 1,500 words for this book, or we only have 48 pages. And therefore, how do I shape this journey? likewise, what will I leave to the illustrations to communicate?
Mm-hmm.
For example, to explain the submersible, she could have said, well, there are 7 small attachments across the front, 2 large lamps, 1 smaller lamp, 5 sonar. Not a very interesting bit of prose. Whereas you show the picture, it's like, oh, I get what it is. Most critically is, why is a sphere the only shape that can exist under 15,000 pounds of pressure per square inch? So I love the idea, in some ways, of using my informed ignorance, let's call it that way.
Uh-huh.
So I would say, Kathy, I'm not understanding. I know what pressure is. I know why, but I am not understanding, why does sound respond to pressure? So why, when you're at the bottom, does the sound traveling to the surface take so much time, since sound's a wave? And Kathy would say, okay, interesting. You have the basic idea, but when you apply it, it's different because of cold. It's different because of the pressure. It's different because of the particles in the water that are absorbing and deflecting the sound waves. So, while I thought I could get a running start on many things, I loved the idea that Kathy could hear what I was saying, appreciate what I was saying, honor that, yep, you're in the right ballpark here, but we're not playing baseball, we're playing football.
Uh-huh.
So I loved being corrected that way. I loved, having what I thought I was almost there, realizing not exactly.
Well, that's one of the things I love about being the host of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. I get to speak to people like Dr. Kathy Sullivan, like Dr. Sylvia Earle, who Kathy affectionately calls her deepness, and other geniuses. And I just try to keep, treading water when I'm speaking. And they're very kind enough to keep it on my level. But it's amazing because there's so much knowledge, and I love that you're creating books for kids that are introducing them to the fact that there's so much still to be discovered, and hopefully get kids excited about what can be.
I think that is your gift as a host, Jed, is to be that catalyst for hosting, to be that listener who brings out from people the possibility that others, Kathy would say it this way. I've been on some of the biggest theaters on the globe. I've been in a shuttle. I've been to Antarctica. I've been to Galapagos. I've been to the top of mountains. I've been to the deepest part of the ocean. But does that mean I did it and the rest of you are just supposed to admire me? Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. It's literally an invitation that says curiosity is innate. Curiosity is vital. It's part of why we support, why we are able to argue that this planet needs more than just our exploitation. Mm-hmm. Why we have to admire and appreciate and honor and preserve. So she's convinced me over many years that any act of curiosity is exploration. Mm. That any time you wonder about something, whether it's the wasp that's in the corner of your umbrella and you're watching it come and go, or the birds at your feeder, or the spider web that you walked into while you were, on your hike today, all of those, if you choose to stop and say, now, how did this web get across the path? It's 6 feet wide. There's no tree here, but there's a line that goes directly across. How did it get there? And maybe you think, wind? Did wind blow it across? Did it, whatever it is, it invites you into a connection with your swatch of the world. I mean, I live in rural Ohio, and every day I walk my collie 3 times on the trails, and there isn't a moment when I don't find something that gives me a sense of reflection, pause, wonder, and it could be, a turtle that is suddenly in the meadow today, and my dog is sniffing it for the first time he's ever met a painted turtle. And oddly, he takes a couple sniffs and then jerks away from it. Like, what is this? The turtle didn't do anything. He didn't swat. He didn't anything, but there was something in that scent that the collie just said, oh no, not going to go there. And so, I wanted to look that up to say, why are turtles, a trigger in some way to the collie, or a series of scarlet tanagers that I heard today on the walk. I'm not very good at identifying bird names. I have an app that will help me do it.
Yep.
Berlin. And that gave me an excuse to come inside, look up the tanager, try to memorize that call. So if I hear it again, and to me, especially when I think about young people, I want young people to engage and have real friction with the natural world, not just, oh yeah, whatever. I did a residency at a wonderful private school once, very, very deluxe school, let's just say. And I accompanied the 3rd graders to the beekeeping session of their day. The school had bees. It had 3 supers of bees. They all got to put on masks, bee veils. And here's the instructor, and he's smoking the bees, and he's getting ready to lift up the lid and lift up the combs. And 100% of the kids are on their phones filming the bees. And I was gobstruck. Like, why are they interested in the pluperfect tense? We had been there. No, what about being there?
Right.
What about feeling the temperature of the beehive, 93 degrees? What about hearing the sound of the bees, watching how they move or don't move, and how the instructor was, able to shove them with their hands? There was something so sensory there. And instead, they're worrying about focus and whether they're recording. And is it because having been there was better than being there?
Yeah. I know. I understand. I was just at a concert, and
yes,
everybody was watching the concert through their phone, and I'm like, dude, Santana is right there. What are you gonna look? Look at the show. Crazy. That's
why God invented YouTube. If you want to see it later, it's already there.
Right.
You could buy a postcard in the gift shop. So just look at the monument, look at the sculpture.
Yeah. I've heard some people lately, because everybody is losing their minds over AI, and we're not going to have any jobs. And I have huge confidence in human beings, and I think we're going to adapt. And just like, when the buggy whip went out, we invented something else. And I think there are going to be just as many jobs, if not more, created by using AI. But the one thing that AI is not going to be able to do is to be curious, to have that human curiosity. And I think as parents, if we can encourage our kids to develop that curiosity muscle, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give them. What would you suggest to a parent to really encourage that strengthening of the curiosity muscle?
To demonstrate it themselves.
Yeah.
I love the idea of modeling, whether it's vocabulary, use words, read books on your own. You don't just have to read to your kids. Be reading a book. Look up from your book and say, oh my gosh, did you know that if someone gets cremated and they're really heavy, they have to do it really slowly because otherwise they have a giant fire? And you're like, what?
I didn't know that.
I know, but just that, a parent who does that, or who says something like, do you know, like if a tree keeps its leaves all winter, there's a word for that. I just found it. It's called marcescence. Isn't that? I mean, I love a culture in which there's that shared sense of, wow, I had no idea. Cool. And so the child models that idea of, hey, you know what? The katydid that was in the house. Did you see its long legs at the end were bigger than, its antenna were bigger than its body. Well, why? Why do you think that would be? I don't know. So I don't know is that shared experience that I love to have with kids, whether I was a camp director or a teacher or, that role of let's find out together.
Yep. I love, that was one of the things I loved doing with my kids when they were younger. I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out where we can go to find out more about how to dive to the deepest place on the earth and find out more about you. Did you like how I segued there? That was kind of...
You may indeed. The book just came out 14 days ago, so it should be online and in bookstores. And among the many books that I have done, some of them are still in print and could be found at a bookstore. All of my books have my middle initial in it, J, because there's a British colleague of mine who's published as many books over the years who is always confused with me. So I have to keep saying I'm Michael J. Rosen.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I think this is one of the books that we should absolutely go, even if we get our own copy for our home, go to the library and request it so the other folks in your community can have access to it too.
Nice idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've had a really wonderful time talking about curiosity and a whole lot of other things, celebrating the book, How to Dive to the Deepest Place on Earth. Our guest has been Michael J. Rosen. Michael, thanks so much for being with us.
Delighted. Hey, all best to you.
This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Fart Boy and Reeky Dog, Dino Doom. Fantastic new graphic novel written by New York Times bestselling author Joan Holub, who's written over 200 amazing books for kids. It's school sleepover at the museum. What could go wrong? Well, how about this? A snack-fueled explosion of garbanzo beans and peanuts unleashes a stink so powerful it brings the dinosaurs back to life. Now, Fart Boy, Reeky Dog, and their friends are in the middle of a dino-sized disaster. They have to solve tricky riddles, find missing bones, and stop the stinkiest villain of all, Professor Gravy Pants. Because if they don't, the dinosaurs could take over. Or worse, they could become Dino Dinner. This action-packed graphic novel is bursting with friendships, adventure, and enough laughs to shake the museum walls. If your kids love superheroes, if they love dinosaurs, and if they love to laugh until they can't breathe, then Fart Boy and Reeky Dog Dino Doom is the book for you. Because sometimes the power to save the world comes from the unlikeliest place. Grab your copy today and get ready for a reading adventure that's truly dynamite. Joining us from one of my favorite states in the world, the Garden State of New Jersey. Our guest is here today. I forgot how to speak English. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new middle grade novel. It's called Invisible String. It's part of the Eris Journey Book 2. Please welcome to the show, April Crystal Holmes. AC, how are you?
Hi, Jed. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm delighted to have you on. Through the miracle of technology, I am looking into AC's space, and she is surrounded by beautiful butterflies all over her wall. What a great place to just hang out. I'm imagining it must be a very calming kind of place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I meditate every day too, so that helps. But I love writing here. I usually actually write on my couch or in my bed, because that's where I'm most comfortable, and I feel like that's where the creativity really comes alive. Or outside if, it's not 99% humidity.
Yeah. There's a big blue butterfly right over, I guess it's your left shoulder. And,
oh, yes.
I was down in Costa Rica a few years back with my beautiful wife and daughter and son-in-law, and we're in the rainforest, and there is a picture of me with a big blue butterfly just like that on my shoulder, and it's just it was a magical moment.
Wow, Jed, do you believe that was maybe a sign?
It could be. I'm not quite sure what it would be a sign of, but could be. Well, I'm open to it.
Funny enough, in my book, which deals with grief, it talks a lot about different signs, and one of the signs that I use is a yellow butterfly, which the main character keeps seeing and is a representation of her past dog. And butterflies are known to be signs of spirits that have passed us, and they just want to say hello. So maybe that was just someone trying to say hello to you.
Well, that makes that picture even more special. Yeah. So tell us about Invisible String.
Okay, so Invisible String is the second book in my series. Cruel Summer was the first one. Both books follow Georgie and her journey as she discovers different things. Cruel Summer basically focuses on friendship breakups, where the second book focuses on pet grief. And it's basically a message to just learn that love doesn't disappear after loss. It stays connected to us always in unforeseen ways. And I started writing this series because I felt like there were some underserved topics that were so important, especially for our middle grade audience that are, serving as bridge books even, for them to understand these important topics in life.
Yeah. Well, certainly, I know when I was growing up, and again, I told you before we hit record, I'm very, very old, but back in the day, adults didn't talk to kids about death.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, I remember very well when I was 10 or 11, a little 4-year-old drowned in a river. A kid who lived 3 doors down.
That's so sad.
It was incredibly sad, but we talked about it amongst ourselves. But no one was invited to go to the funeral or the wake or any of that kind of thing. And I'm glad. I still think we have a long way to go, but I'm very glad that we are talking about things like death and grief with our kids a little bit more than we did. Still have a long way to go, but we're better.
Yeah, I definitely think we are a lot better now as just like a society with being more open about topics like that. And it happens, right? Everyone experiences grief, but a lot of people don't know how to handle it. And this is a book to show that, grief isn't something you have to get over. It's something you experience and you learn to carry. And it shows you that love doesn't disappear, right? New love doesn't replace the old love, and they're always with you. And I didn't want it to feel too heavy, right? Because this is a book for children. And I wanted them to understand that grief is kind of like an adventure. So I took it from the perspective of books I loved and movies I loved. And I wanted it to feel like Mary-Kate and Ashley. Remember Mary-Kate and Ashley?
Yeah.
Like an adventure that they were having, but this was through Georgie's lens. And then I mixed it with kind of like the feel of Homeward Bound and Now and Then. And I wanted it to have that 90s nostalgia. And I think it really achieves that. And because of that, the reader is able to like go on this really cool journey with Georgie, but she's also able to understand grief better because she's enjoying reading the book during the message.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, a lot of people hearing this might think, okay, I'm going to file this in the back of my head. So in case my kid ever, we ever experiencing grief with my kid, we'll be able to run out, buy that book, and then come in and read it together. I would recommend, if you think this is a book that would help your kid at some point, the time to read it is now, before they experience grief, so that we can learn some of the lessons and be prepared and have these conversations before they're all-encompassing.
I totally agree with you. I think it's great to research something and figure it out before the event happens. It's a story that I wish existed when I was younger and grieving a pet. I grew up always having dogs. I've had 2 dogs of my own now, and now my boyfriend has a dog, so we have another dog together, which is so cool. And whether it's pet or human grief, I feel like reading this story now and talking about it with your kids is so helpful because then they understand kind of what's coming and they can kind of process it a little better. And maybe it's something they reread when they do experience grief, but they have that memory where they can pull from it and say, oh, Georgie experienced this too. This is what I can do to kind of celebrate the life of my pet, or, kind of just realize that the bond is never gone, and it gives them some kind of hope. Yeah. I also put in the back of both of my books reading questions that they can use for discussion with their kids. And it's kind of like a nice parent-child exercise that they don't have to use all of them, but maybe after they read it, they can talk to them about it and it can become a dinner conversation. And I think that's something that's really nice and kind of just brings the family together.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, what inspired the book?
So having dogs my whole life, they were always part of the family. And every time they died, I was always obviously very sad. But I had my own first dog, which is Gidget, and she makes a cameo in the book. And she was just riddled, unfortunately, with medical issues. She only lived till about 7. And I learned so much from her. And it was so hard for me to get over, or not over, but carry the grief with her, And I realized I started to look for books that would help me. And there wasn't a lot of them. And I said, this is something that needs to be written about more, so people understand the importance of pet being part of the family, but also it's okay to grieve them. I feel like a lot of people are like, get over it. It's just a pet. And I feel like this gives them more of a steady place in the universe of family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Telling someone to get over it. And I think in the history of the world, I don't think that's ever helped anybody.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. I don't think that mentality is ever helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it would be nice if there was a switch I could throw, but I haven't been able to find one. I just kind of have to deal with this. Boy, have you always wanted to be a writer for kids, April?
I've always wanted to be a storyteller. I've always had a great creative imagination, which I'm just always so thankful for. And luckily for me, I also have the other half of organization and processing, so I'm able to create the stories in a way that develop and have the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I've always wanted to, kind of like serve the community by bringing important messages, especially ones that are underserved, to communities. And I just feel like kids at that age, at that middle grade age, are in such a place where they're like sponges and they're reading so much and they're soaking up so many messages. And I think both books really serve them greatly for understanding how life moves forward.
Yeah.
The first book being about the friendship breakups and not every friendship lasts forever, and a lot of books don't talk about that. And I think that helps them with learning too.
Sure. Yeah. No, friendships, middle grade friendships can be vicious. They can be wonderful, and I'm still friends with some buddies that I knew in those middle school grades. But yeah, especially I ran an after school program for a couple of years before I started performing, and boy, those kids could be especially the girls. Could be so nasty. It's like your best friends one day, and I don't want to talk to you the next day, and to the point where it's like, not only am I not going to talk to you, I'm going to get everybody else to not talk to you and hate you, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's basically kind of what happens to Georgie in the first book. I positioned her as just graduating college. So it's someone that middle graders can look up to. Or I'm sorry, just graduating high school.
Right.
And she has these best friends for 4 years, and she thinks they're, the best people in her life. And slowly throughout the book, she learns that her family's actually the ones that are always there for her. And these friends have ulterior motives for the most part for being in these friendships. And she slowly learns, like, these are not my people, And I just think that's so important because no one talks about friendship breakups, but they're important.
Yeah.
And it's something that should be discussed so kids know it's okay to move on from a relationship that's not working for you, just like you're told to move on from relationships.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great lesson to learn at a very young age, because it's, you want to, hey, this isn't working. I know you want this friendship to be there. I know you have this idea, this vision of this person, whether it's a best friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, even a husband or a wife, but it ain't working. And so you got to cut, move on.
Yeah. Cut ties. Yeah.
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 It's tough. How difficult is it for you to kind of remember back? Because I'm sure a lot of this is based on some memories and experiences that you have. Every writer writes from that place. How difficult was it kind of remembering those experiences and those feelings as you were writing this book?
So I thought it was going to be so challenging at first. I do have a pretty good memory, and it's luckily very visual. But it was more of a healing experience for me too. With the first book, there was a lot of friendships that I realized that, maybe I didn't even need anymore because they weren't serving me like I was serving them. And with the second book, my dad had passed away with the release of my first book. So it really helped me work through my own grief, and it just was an amazing healing experience for me.
Yeah. I can hear in your voice that it's still difficult for you to do.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many books are you envisioning for the Eris journey?
So definitely 3. The next one, Georgie will experience first love, but not in the way you might think. Okay. And after that, I have some ideas for moving forward. But originally, when I was thinking of it, I came up with these 3 topics and kind of outlined how I wanted the series to go. So for right now, it's 3 topics. And I'm also on the side writing an romance tropical novel under a pen name. So a little different.
A romance tropical. Now I know that a romance that's a fantasy is a romantasy. Is there a name for romance tropical? Is it tromance? Tropical?
There isn't one, but I feel like maybe we should coin one. I like tromance. That could work.
Tromance. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want credit for that because I don't read romance.
It was just, I'm a Sagittarius, so, we always have to have more than one hobby or thing going on. And it helps because on days when I am stuck writing one story, I can hop over to the other, or hop over to doing marketing. And I actually feel like I get so much more done by having the variation. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now, how difficult is it for you to switch from AC writing deep, heartfelt, emotional books for middle school kids to romance? And I don't know how spicy your romance is going to be.
Not spicy at all.
Okay.
It's very like low, maybe one spice, if any. But no,
I can't believe that I know how to use those terms.
I know. I had to look it up because I was like, wait, how spicy is this? And they were like 1 star. I was like, okay, good. But
1 pepper.
it just, 1 pepper, one spicy pepper. It just depends on like the mind, and how my mindset's going for that day. And, the book is still, it's romance focused, but it's based on a woman who was asked for a divorce on her 40th birthday. So there's still a lot of like depth there. And, she's a millennial. So obviously she suffers from body issues and things like that. So it's also a message there with, be yourself and be happy in your skin and things like that. So even though it's romance focused, I still try and always put in like the deeper messages because I feel like that's part of reading, right? You should be enjoying the story so much that you almost don't even realize the message that's being carried through till after and you're reflecting on it.
Yeah. How, as you're creating the story and telling the story, you told us that you have always thought of yourself as a storyteller. How much does the character and creating the character drive your stories?
I would say a lot. All my stories are very character focused. I love developing the character. I love watching them go from someone that's like barely tolerable to like a, self-realized human. And I think that's so important because if your main character is perfect, why are we hearing a story about them? Why am I writing a story? And I get that feedback all the time with the first book. And I think it's so funny. They're like, great book. Georgie was a little annoying. Or like, Georgie drove me crazy for the first half. And I was so happy when it like clicked that she shouldn't be doing this. And I just love that kind of feedback because that's right. It's exactly how I'm positioning in the book. So the readers are understanding the message and, Georgie gets better through both books, but things keep happening to you just like they do in life, especially when you're in middle grade and teenagers. And this is just, a reflection of me and others that I knew in high school and middle school and what we dealt with. And, I feel like that helps it really come alive. You write what you know.
Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Invisible String and all the things that are coming from your imagination.
Awesome. So you can go to my website. It's aprilchrystal.com. So aprilcrystal.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter on there, or you can go to Amazon, and both books are available on there for Kindle and paperback. And in about a month, my audiobook will be out for the second book. It's already out for the first. My narrator, Tina, did an amazing job, especially with the second book. She had so much fun. I gave her free leeway with the characters, and you should hear all these side characters. It is amazing. I'm so excited for everyone to hear it.
Awesome. We've had a really wonderful time speaking to the author of Invisible String. It's book 2 in the Eris Journey series, great middle grade series from our guest, April Crystal Holmes. Hey, April, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for having me. Have a great day.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. This episode made you smile or gave you something to think about. Please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. Hey, if you are an author of a fantastic children's book, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. You'll find out how you can be a guest here on the show, and you also can find out how you can submit your book to our Certified Great Read team. Perhaps your book could be our next Certified Great Read. Congratulations again to Bob Richley. Redeeming Rhubarb is our latest Reading with Your Kids Great Read. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Michael J. Rosen. Please be sure to check out How to Dive to the Deepest Place on Earth. Also want to thank April Crystal Holmes. Please be sure to check out Invisible String. I want to thank my team, Ella Badier, Daylene Rose Advina Lopez, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the love and support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to give your kid the best chance he or she will have of succeeding in life. And you do that every single time you read with your kid. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.